It's been a while since I've made a video for YouTube. If you're wondering why the background has NES and old horror movies on the well, not old, but today we're doing a special called Blast to the Past. I'm going to look at a few things based off of some retro properties. I've got to start the Dark Knight Returns Joker and Batman action figures. Now, even though the figures themselves are relatively new, I think, let's see if we can find a date on here somewhere. Yeah, they're only a couple years old. The Dark Knight Returns was a limited series by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson, published in '86, and a lot of people say that it was one of the comics of that decade that brought about what is today known as the Dark Age of Comics. And if you don't know, it means that because The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, even Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Contest of Champions, even to a lesser extent, but especially later down the line, we also had The Killing Joke, and so on. They were comics that handled heavier themes and darker subject matter, and even reimagined old heroes or even the superhero genre entirely through a new, more modern point of view, modern for that time at least. You know, it was gone were the days of the square-jawed, the jaunty, and just happy-go attitude that they had back in, say, the 1950s and the 60s. And it was the decade that gave us Tim Burton's Batman, which we'll actually come back for in a minute. And in fact, Killing Joke and Dark Knight Returns was actually very influential in that. Supposedly Killing Joke was actually the first comic Tim Burton, being dyslexic, was ever able to actually read and understand, like from front to back, but actually just looking at it, as he had been known to try. When he tried reading comics, that's what he would do. And over here, and the influence, as you can see, has even lasted through to today, because 2 years ago for Dawn of Justice, if you remember the armored look on that batsuit, while the new design itself definitely had a lot of influence from this look. And as we can see, this is part of a series. Lex Luthor, Supergirl. The funny thing is, only a couple figures in this line, which are for building Doomsday, which is giving a lot of figures these days do. Only the Batman, Robin, Mutant Leader, and this Joker, obviously, are the only ones from The Dark Knight Returns. That's interesting. The story was recently made into a DC Universe original animated feature, initially released in 2 parts in order to tell the entire story without having to cut anything. And I've heard you can get like a definitive cut of both parts in one on Blu-ray. And I think the only other time the Joker ever had a similar look to this all-white suit, was in the Arkham Origins game, although that was because he was only pretending to be Black Mask for the first half of the... Spoiler, by the way. Looks like he's got an alternative head, a knife, and a handgun. The trigger guard is a little off, but I don't know if that's just how it was in the... or if it's a manufacturing error. It looks like we can put together Doomsday's head and torso. And that's not an actual gun, by the way. That's, according to the comic, it's a kryptonite blaster, because this is the armor worn during the showdown with Superman, which, of course, would be heavily influenced and referenced in Dawn of Justice. So in relation to this Ghostbusters game 2 game we've got back here, I don't have anything for Friday the 13th, at least not this time, we also have, this is the remote, and an RC Ecto 1. It's based off of the original Ecto 1 from Ghostbusters in '84. It's kind of reminds me of a model kit I actually assembled once. It's almost like, it's very plastic model kit quality. Pretty solid. It's not as detailed as I'd say it could be. The stripe just kind of, instead of going all the way to the end of the window, But we do have the Ecto 1 license plates. Got on the doors there, the tail fins, the doors, sirens. It's missing the satellite dish. Both the original and the Ghostbusters 2 Ecto 1 had a satellite dish on the roof and doesn't have that. I can't. It does work, but I can't make it run, so I'm just gonna use the demo mode to show you. When it was in the package, you just you push this button to hear the siren. Okay. Moving on from 1984 to 1985, we have the Delorean from Back to the Future, and from 1985 to 1989, the Delorean from Model 2, and complete the roundhouse, we have the DeLorean from Back to the Future 3. These are all die-cast DeLoreans from Welly. Pretty decently detailed for their 1/18th scale size. You can see there's not much difference between the first and second. The only real difference is the Mr. Fusion on the back over there. We don't have any of... The detailing is okay, but there could have been more features to differentiate these two, like these tires don't... They don't go sideways, there's no blue... There's no blue glow or anything like that. Okay, we can see the underside. It says Welly. Let's zoom made it. But definitely you can tell the biggest difference of all is the Back to the Future 3 model from 1990. The time circuits remade with vacuum tubes and older technology. It's got Part 2's Mr. Fusion, like always, and the tires from the 50s car that had to be replaced. I've seen that from other companies, there are versions like, instead of tires, you get it like on a miniature railroad, like a base, like a railroad track, and it's modified for the scene where they're pushing it with a locomotive. And I've seen like versions that are electronic of the Back to the Future 2 car that have neon glow lights, and the tires go out into the sides. And for Back to the Future 1, there are like icy, very, very icy looking because of how the DeLorean during its first jump was covered in ice. Variants like that. On a similar vein, we have a Batmobile from the Tim Burton Batman movie. This is made by a different company as part of a series. They've made not just this, but also the... Look at that. Look at that. Those three cars right there. Well, you get the idea. I honestly wish I had a die-cast Ecto 1 so it could blend in with these, but I didn't realize how big the Ecto 1 would be. But, yeah, it's like Ready Player One over here. A real blast to the past. But anyway, the Batmobile, it includes the Adam West, as well as the later Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batmobiles. As time went on, there's not much difference between the first and second one. But by the fifth, once Joel Schumacher took over, there was a lot more of neon on the tires, a neon underglow. The engine had like neon, was slightly exposed with neon coming out of here. A lot of neon in the Joel Schumacher Batman films. And a neon fin on the hood. There's a little fin. But they also made Chris Nolan's The Tumbler, both as like a military vehicle before he modified it to be his Batmobile. And of course the Dawn of Justice and Justice League Batmobiles. I forget the company name exactly, but this is a really nice die-cast. The back here kind of opens up if... It doesn't really do much except show more tail fin, I guess. The hood doesn't. But, yeah, you see the slides forward. It looks like you could fit maybe minifigures in here, but really you can't fit. And just like in the movie, the turrets flip up like this. And that's it. That's a blast to the past from 1984 to 1989. What more could you ask for? Hope you enjoyed this little flashback, blast of the past, trip down memory lane, and this is Mario Fan signing off. Sorry, my finger keeps covering up the lens. It's a new phone and I'm getting used to it.